Good morning and welcome back to Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to continue that deep dive into the Alternity Game Master's Guide. Now, I do apologize. I realize I've taken 2 weeks off. Part of that was getting ready to leave the country, and then part of that was dealing with, coming back from being out of the country. So it's been a bit of a nutty couple of weeks, but I have been itching to get back to this, get this back into my routine and keep going with this deep dive. Now, there's a couple of extra reasons for it because I actually ran a session on Saturday, and according to the players, it didn't suck. so, um, needless to say, there's a lot that there's a lot that I got wrong. There's a lot of stuff that I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. Like, you know what? Let's just keep this moving. Let's keep everybody having fun. But it did go pretty well. I'm running Black Starfall, which is one of the pre-printed modules. It was actually given away with the purchase of the Alternity Player's Handbook back in 1998. And nobody had played it, nobody had read it, so I kind of had some free reign. So that's what I wanted to run. We got through most of it. I probably could have kept the session going, but honestly, my ADHD was hitting really hard, and so I needed to stop. But the players were all great. It was a fantastic group. It was Max Liao from Legion of Myth. It was GM Cody, Bear the Gen X GM, Mr. Max Boivon. I ruin his name every time I try to say it. Of Reactionary Principle Gaming, a nerd's nerd who's in our circles. I don't think she has her own channel, but she was there as well. And on top of that, my lovely wife was also a player, and it was a lot of fun because not only did not only did she agree to play, um many comments were made about how she improved as a role player just across one session. And I realize I'm kind of bragging a little bit, but I realized that I got to help with that. So it was super cool. It was a great session. I had so much fun. Uh, uh Gary and Gary's space herpes were definitely a thing. Uh, there was the everybody did do their best, because I told them that I don't feel like I have a lot of good skills to be a game master. I told them that that I was trying to improve, that I wanted feedback. And for lack of a better way to put it, they were on their best behavior. But even then, we still had a lot of fun. We still had the things that are just going to be in jokes. Um, and honestly, I couldn't have asked for anything better. It was super great. I was so happy to be able to do it. The only problem now is trying to schedule a second session so that we can actually finish the game. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Bear actually has become mildly obsessed with Alternity himself, so that's actually been kind of fun. And that's actually spawned, as it does with Bear, it spawned some extra creativity on his part, which I think I might be overcommitting myself again. Here we are. I'm a disaster, folks. I don't know why anyone's here. I don't get it. But yeah, so needless to say, it was a fantastic time. And I really do like everything that I've been reading about the system. I do like it, and I'm excited to get into it some more. We didn't really do any combat. It was a lot of skill checks, a lot of puzzle solving, problem solving, and overall they did really well. So um so yeah, anyways, it's a lot of fun. I'm super excited for it. Um we'll we'll see what happens, and I will obviously keep everyone posted. I did actually record the session because we still did it over StreamYard. And so it did get recorded, and I will post it probably tomorrow. I have to get my act together on that too, but that's a whole separate issue. But we will definitely get there, and regardless, super excited, lots of fun. Oh my gosh, it was great. Um, anyways, so there is a little bit of update on everything. But I do appreciate everybody's patience with me. And so let's go ahead and get into it. So today, for the Game Master's Guide, we're going to cover 2 chapters. We're going to look at vehicles and spaceships. Figured they're kind of the same thing, so let's go ahead and look at both of those. Yeah, we'll see where we get. Honestly, I'm hoping to finish up this book this week. So today, tomorrow, and Thursday, like normal. And then next week, or the next book I'm thinking about doing, I think is going to be Fragged. Fragged and oh crap, I forget what the name of it is. Because they just came out with a new one, which I have or I will have. Fragged Empire. I want to take a look at Fragged Empire. So yeah, that's the one that I'm planning on. I am actually going to reach out to the creator of it, just to make sure he's okay with it. This one's been an older one, so I'm not too worried about it. But I don't know, whatever. Wade Dyer, he's a great guy. I like him. And so I just want to give him a heads up that I'm planning on doing it. So, okay. But yeah, so we're going to cover vehicles and spaceships, and then I'm going to go to bed because I've been up a long time. There we go. Okay, so probably should have had this all prepped earlier, but I didn't. So here we are. All right, chapter 10, vehicles. The galaxy is constantly in motion, and so are most heroes. While some of your adventures may take place entirely within a single building or even a particular room, most adventures find heroes flinging from one end of the world to another. Chapter 12, Vehicles, in the Player's Handbook, lists vehicle models and their statistics. In this chapter, vehicular accessories, weapons, and expanded rules further explore vessels that travel on the land, sea, or air. Yeah, basically what they're doing is they're just kind of expanding on those rules. We're not going to read over everything. Anything that kind of like sparks my interest, we'll go ahead and read. But then we'll look mostly at the additional rules for vehicles. So, all right, vehicular accessories. Outfitted with a variety of accessories, vehicles adapt to roles of transportation and exploration. Just about anything from the personal equipment list can be installed in a vehicle. If a hero wants a portable workshop and cutting torch in the back of a truck, all that's necessary is the money for both. However, some accessories can only be mounted on a vehicle of some kind and aren't suitable for personal use. These are vehicular accessories. Vehicular accessories often require a support, bracing, or custom mounting. To reflect the fact that some vehicles can carry more gear than others, each vehicle's durability rating, equal to its number of mortal boxes, represents the number of systems that can be installed. Some vehicular systems are too large or too heavy for smaller vehicles. For purposes of customizing a vehicle, assume that a suitable body, chassis, engine, and other normal details, such as a sound system, doors and windows, and spare tires, are included in the basic price. You don't have to pay extra to get wings for your hero's plane or tires for your hero's car. However, unusual systems, such as the ones described below, have a hefty price tag attached and may not be commonly available. All right. So first off, I think is fantastic. That's a nice, simple, easy rule to let players customize vehicles, but also not get super complicated in the minutia. Not like a BattleTech tech manual or anything. It's vehicles have the same kind of health ratings. Fatigue or not fatigue, but stun, wounds, and mortal. And so if you want to add specific equipment, you get a number of slots equal to the mortal rating on your vehicle. Nice, simple, clean. Fantastic. All right. So what kind of stuff do we have? All right. So for system descriptions, almost any device from the personal equipment list can be fitted to a vehicle. Unless a hero takes this to extreme lengths, for example, trying to mount one of everything in a compact car, all he has to do is spend the money and mark it down on a vehicle record sheet. If necessary, assume that any item from the personal equipment list weighing more than 3 kilograms uses 1 point of durability when installed on a vehicle. What you or your players may become interested in an accessory that isn't described below. There's no reason you can't add the systems listed here or add to the systems listed here. If there's an item you think is reasonably available in your campaign, go ahead and create it. Again, makes perfect sense. That's, and I think a lot of that can just be, taking into account, what are the kinds of things available, like they've got this camping module here. So, maybe you want to change it to like a life support module. So work with the game master. What are some of the options that you would need? What kind of changes would be required? But bam, you can do that and put it into your vehicle. Let's see. So ablative module, ablative defensive system. So basically it's an armor system, communication suite, airtight configuration, deflection module. Let's see, ECM pod, ejection system, EM detector, excavation gear, high power engine. Oh, there's the. I'm like, they're not showing, any of the sizes for these units. Okay, so it's going to be in this chart right here. So the durability. So this is how many slots on those mortal wounds for the vehicle, how much they're going to take up. So again, nice, simple availability. So common, controlled, military, and any. There we go. All right, that's all of them. Infrared detector, medical suite, mass detector, performance package, security system, sonar, stealth configuration, rescue gear, radar, thermal imager, salvage gear, science suite. All of this is all, if you don't know what they are, do a Google search. All right. Let's see. Using vehicular accessories. Many vehicular accessories function continuously without the need for pilot or operator's guidance. The high power engine and the ablative module are examples. Other systems, such as the ECM pod and the IR detector, require a skill check to determine success. The accessory is controlled by a system operations specialty skill that's appropriate. For example, using a radar aboard a jet requires system operation sensors. Finally, the presence of some accessories on a vehicle may allow or assist completely unrelated skill checks. Onboard medical suites, science suites, and camping modules are examples. So yeah, you can get a medical check or a science check or, survival check, or stamina check, all, again, pretty common. All right. Weapons to mount on the vehicle. Makes sense. All right, vehicular weapons. Heroes operating in dangerous areas may discover a need for firepower heavier than they can carry. Vehicular weaponry answers that need. Like vehicular accessories, vehicular weapons require support, bracing, and mounting. To reflect the fact that some vehicles can carry larger weapons than others, each vehicle's durability rating limits the number of accessories and weapons that can be installed. Most vehicular weapons use several durability points and may be too large and too heavy for smaller vehicles. So, same deal. Here's the durability rating. So, like 120 millimeter cannon, durability 6. So you're not putting that into your tiny little sports car. 120 millimeter rail cannon, same deal. Or the quantum cannon. Again, it makes sense. No issues here. All right, using vehicular weapons. As with personal weapons, use of a vehicular weapon requires a successful skill check. In some instances, such as the 50 caliber machine gun, the weapon is controlled by a hero directly, even though it's mounted to the vehicle. In this case, heavy weapons is the appropriate skill. In all other cases, the system operation weapons skill is used. For example, a pilot or gunner aboard a tank or helicopter may use system operation weapons to fire missiles and cannons. So, simple thing to remember. If you're using it yourself, it's a weapon skill. If you are, using it from a control station on a ship, it's a system operation skill. Nice and simple. All right. Then we have, different list of weapons, different size cannons, sci-fi weapons, arc cannon, plasma cannon, quantum cannon, anti-tank missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, maser cannons. Again, all pretty normal stuff. All right. Vehicular armor. Armor allows a vehicle to absorb damage when it is struck, much like a character rolls for armor after suffering damage. The cost of the armor depends on 3 factors: the size of the vehicle, reflected in its durability rating, the amount of armor, and the type of armor. Alloy armor is made of large quantities of super tough metal alloys such as vanadium steel. Polymeric armor is composed of microengineered plastics. Cerametal is made from laminated ceramics and lightweight metals. And neutronite is an alloy composed of tungsten and dissociated neutrons. Nanofluidic armor is a system of smart liquid metals with extraordinary conductivity and memory characteristics. Armor may have a durability cost determined by the amount of armor selected. Light armor, regardless of the type, has no durability cost. Moderate armor costs 1 for vehicles whose total durability is between 3 and 6. For vehicles of larger size, moderate costs 2 durability points. Heavy armor costs 4 durability points. The effect of armor is given on the left side of table G30. The monetary cost of the armor based on the durability of the vehicle is given on the right side of the table. A dash indicates that the amount of armor isn't available for a vehicle of that durability rating. Smaller vehicles can't be heavily reinforced. So here's your list of armors. All right. Okay. All right. I want to read this just because of the last line. All right. Castle, example of vehicle customization. Castle, an infamous bounty hunter, needs to go out into the wild outback of a steppe world in order to find his quarry. He has some money and time, so he buys a sport utility, a PL5 vehicle. The basic cost is $30,000. Castle needs to add a few accessories. The sport utility has 8 points of durability. Castle buys a 25 millimeter charge gun. He also buys a camping module, and since he expects to be in the bush for quite some time. These add $28,000 to the car's price. The gun uses 3 durability points and the module 3, so Castle has 2 more points of durability to spend. He chooses moderate cerametal armor, then he takes time to add a couple other accessories from the personal equipment list: comm gear and a GPS receiver. The total cost for Castle's ATV is $138,000 or $38,325, not counting tax and tags. That like, I have not heard that phrase tax and tags in many years, but basically it means you buyed it and you registered it with the government that you have it. Not sure why he's registering that he's got a vehicle with a mounted machine gun, but that's a whole separate issue. All right, let's get into these extra rules. All right, vehicle combat. Your first decision as the game master of a world with vehicles and vehicle combat is simple but important. Do you want to narrate the scene or do you want to visually present it? In the narrative style, you won't concern yourself with the exact maneuvers or position of the vehicles involved. Simply keep track of how far they are from each other and whether they're closing, opening, holding, or attempting to break off. Maybe the jet fighter has to loop, bank, or dive to get at the other guy. The important thing is that the enemy's 5 kilometers away and that the jet fighter is attempting to close the distance to get into cannon range. The basics of the narrative style are described in Chapter 12, Vehicles, in the player's handbook. When you lay out a visual representation of the vehicle battle on a map or diagram, loose intentions no longer matter. If a hero wants to close the distance, he'll choose maneuvers that move his vehicle closer to the other one on the map. The range between vehicles can be determined by the map. The advantage of the narrative style is that it runs faster. It's good when you don't want to break the flow of a role-playing session by suddenly transforming the game into a miniatures battle. On the other hand, using the visual style is perfect for players who like detail in their combat scenes and enjoy the opportunity to show off their tactical cunning. So I'll admit, I like the miniatures. I like the tactical style. However, I'm probably not going to do that in the game that I'm running because it's all online and it just adds the complexity. I realize there's stuff like Roll20. I don't have to worry about setting any of that up. So we're just going to go theater of the mind and we're going to see how badly I screw it up. Coming soon. All right, setting up the fight. Regardless which method you choose, you have the same basic requirements for presenting the scene. You have to choose an opening range, beginning speed, and intention for each vehicle. You may also need to decide if either vehicle is likely to be surprised, just as in personal combat. Finally, if you intend to use a square grid or a hex map to mark vehicle positions, you need to pick a scale. Opening range. The opening range of a vehicle fight depends on the prevailing conditions and the type of vehicles involved. Jet fighters routinely sight each other at a range of 30 kilometers. High-altitude planes can use radar to detect airborne targets hundreds of kilometers away. But a pair of automobiles playing tag in busy city streets might not see each other until they're within 50 meters. You can decide the opening range by considering the circumstances that led to the vehicle combat, or by rolling on table G31, which is right here. So basically, it gives you just like a rough idea of what the opening range is. Obviously, if you're going to do some vehicle combat, you don't want to have everybody just like right on top of each other right away, because probably going to shorten the scenario. So space them out a little bit. All right, clear conditions include a bright sunny day, a straight, well-paved empty road. Highways and open high-altitude skies are examples of clear conditions. Normal conditions include normal driving and piloting conditions. An uncrowded, winding road, light seas, and moderate altitude skies fall into this category. Crowded conditions occur in heavy traffic, poor visibility, and bad weather. Low altitude skies, high seas, and congested traffic are examples of crowded conditions. And hazardous conditions are the worst possible conditions. Intercity streets at rush hour, perilous off-road driving, total darkness, and extremely low altitudes, particularly near obstacles such as cliffs or buildings, are included in this category. Actual detection ranges might be far greater than this under ideal conditions. See detection, evasion, and pursuit. Since most vehicular weapon ranges don't exceed the maximum possible opening range in clear conditions, there's no reason to keep track of combat scenes until vehicles approach weapons range. Yeah, you don't need to get into the minutia. Go in, like, okay, you're closing. Okay, he's closer. No, if you're at it, you're putting on as much speed as you can, but he's still closing the distance. Okay, cool. How many rounds do we have? Okay, you've got 2 rounds to prepare. Give players time to, decide what they're going to do. Okay, I'm going to arm the cannons. I'm going to, start targeting missiles. Again, just give them a little bit of time. All right, detection, evasion, and pursuit. When vehicles are involved, long-range modern sensors such as radar, sonar, or computer-enhanced visual scans may come into play. These devices allow the operator to make a system operation sensor skill check in place of an awareness check to see how far away the potential target can be detected. Hey, just a passerby. And I appreciate that Bear sent you over here. Yeah, it was a great session. I talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the video if you want to rewind. Or obviously you can watch that later. But yeah, I'm having a ton of fun with this. So um all right. Detection may be modified by obscurity. Sonar is confused by turbulent waters, radar by ground clutter and poor atmospherics, visual scans by darkness or fog, and so on. At your discretion, apply modifiers from table G33 to the operator's skill check. A failure result indicates that the sensor operator does not detect the approaching threat until the enemy is actually in combat range. On a critical failure, the operator does not detect the enemy at all, and the enemy may be able to achieve surprise. Uh, Again, all that makes perfect sense to me, and I totally am in favor of it. If a vehicle operator spots an opponent before it gets within combat range, the operator may choose to flee and avoid combat altogether. Compare the maximum speeds of the vehicles. If the fleeing vehicle is faster, it gets away. If the pursuing vehicle is faster, it eventually catches up and forces combat. You may allow special tactics or conditions to automatically evade the attack. Maybe the sky tank can round a cliff and fly into a hangar, for example. Let's see. Okay, all right, that ended a little quicker than I was expecting. All right, beginning intentions. Opening speed is easy. How fast was each vehicle going before the encounter occurred? In normal or clear conditions, assume that each vehicle was moving at its listed cruising speed. Examine the situation that led to the scene and decide what direction each vehicle is heading. If one vehicle pursued the other, then the fleeing vehicle begins with an intent to open, while the pursuer begins with an intent to close. If the vehicles were paralleling each other, both might begin with an intent to hold. In the narrative style, an intent to close means that the vehicle is heading toward the other. An intent to open or break means that it's heading away from the other. And an intent to hold means that it's heading off to one side or matching speeds. Surprise. The same rules for surprise in personal combat apply to vehicular combat, with one exception. In the surprise phase, the surprised vehicle doesn't stand still. It moves straight forward at its current speed without maneuvering. All right, that's fair. Um, yeah, I will admit, reading through this, I'm understanding the terms, but I am wondering if there's some sort of a cheat sheet in the back of the book, and I don't have my book, or I do have my book close at hand. That's what I get for having ADHD and not putting everything on its shelf. And luckily, I left the door open so Peanut Gallery can make her little comments. I do not see a vehicular cheat sheet. I bet there is one out there on yon interwebs. But obviously, I'm not going to look for it at the moment. We haven't gotten to it yet, but there are some good charts as far as like creating worlds and monitoring your starships. That's good. All right. Tactics, vehicle tactics is the appropriate skill for setting up a vehicle ambush. The degree of success of the ambush leader's tactics check inflicts a +1, 2, or 3 penalty to the victim's awareness or system operation sensor skill check to avoid surprise. In addition, the conditions may provide a modifier. Hazardous conditions provide a +2 penalty to the victim's surprise check. Crowded conditions add a +1 penalty. Normal conditions apply no modifier, and clear conditions provide a -2 bonus. Scale. Setting a scale for the battle is necessary if you're using a grid or diagram to represent the combat visually. Vehicles move a number of meters each phase equal to their speed in kilometers per hour. So a car traveling at 80 kilometers per hour covers 80 meters in each phase of the action round. Make sure your scale is set large enough. Unless you have a very large hex sheet or playing area, you won't want vehicles to travel more than 3 or 4 hexes each phase. Otherwise, you'll be forced to shift your map constantly. Surface vehicles travel between 20 and 200 kilometers per hour under normal circumstances. A scale of 20 or 40 meters per hex is appropriate. Aircraft travel between 100 and 3,000 kilometers per hour. A scale of at least 200 meters per hex or square is appropriate. Long range missile attacks of 30 or 40 kilometers may give you trouble, and so you could use a scale of 1 kilometer per hex if necessary. So, yeah, scale is always going to be an issue. Yeah, like I remember watching a video from Professor Dungeon Master talking about like ranges, and he uses a system where it's like, okay, now this is dealing more with like Dungeons and Dragons style games, so it's just people, but basically it's like, okay, you have you know your heroes are either close to the monster and so can attack as normal, or they are far away. So maybe doing something like that would be a little bit better. Otherwise, yeah, it can get complicated. And somebody who likes miniatures games, who loves BattleTech, um, for a role playing game, I would want my stuff moving a lot faster. Especially because you don't not everybody is in charge of flying a ship, and so sometimes can get a little boring. So, anyways, um, I'm definitely going to be trying for. Well, they're not going to be doing space combat in the second half. Spoiler alert. Uh, but yeah, I'd probably still go with more theater of their mind. All right, the action round. In vehicle combat, the action round proceeds exactly like the action round in personal combat, with two key exceptions. First, a vehicle moves in each phase of the round at its current speed. A car racing along at 200 kilometers per hour covers 200 meters per phase. Every phase. Changing the speed requires a deliberate maneuver on the part of the driver. The second key feature of the action round in vehicle combat ties into vehicle maneuvers. Any character at the controls of a vehicle is allowed to make a routine maneuver in each phase of the action round to keep his vehicle under control and make it go where he wants. This means that the driver or pilot gets free actions to maneuver the vehicle even during the phases where his own action check didn't allow him to act. So, yeah, I remember reading that in the player's handbook, and it's a different style. Um, because of the fact that you're making that action check every single round. But again, you're in a vehicle; it already has momentum, so it it is kind of interesting. I definitely want to try it out just to see how it works. But we got to get through some regular ground combat first. In order for a pilot to perform more than a routine maneuver, a hero must wait for the phase determined by her action check. Attempting a more complicated maneuvers, moderate or extreme stunts, requires the hero to wait until she has an action available. If the hero wants to shoot a weapon or operate a system in the vehicle, this also requires an action. So yeah, so like basic maneuvers, like take driving down a freeway. So drive straight, that that's routine. Or changing lanes, most cases that's going to be routine, unless now you're dealing with heavy traffic. It's rush hour, so you're still trying to drive fast, but maybe you have to make maneuver checks because you just have a little bit of space between two cars to move over. So uh so yeah, basically, yes, they get to move every turn, but as long as it doesn't seem like a simple thing, you know, make them wait for when they have their actions. All right. Okay, so we've got a table of vehicle operation modifiers. So, you know, essentially you're trying to do something with your car. What are your penalties or bonuses based on what the car is doing right now. All right, narrative combat. The narrative combat system is described in the player's handbook. Here, you must balance role-playing fun with the elements of realism. The rules in the player's handbook offer guidelines, but much of the time it will be up to you to determine how tough a maneuver is, what modifiers to apply, and the specifics of how a situation resolves. Be sure to apply the modifiers from the vehicle operations modifiers list. There are a few critical things to remember. A pilot or driver can't change his range and tension without succeeding at a moderate maneuver. Basically, a moderate maneuver allows the pilot to alter his intention by one category, from close to hold, from hold to either open or close, from open to hold or brake, or from brake to open. If he succeeds in an extreme maneuver, he can change his range and tension by up to 2 categories. As part of any vehicle maneuver, a hero may accelerate or decelerate. The table P42 lists the acceleration of each vehicle. Usually vehicles decelerate at the same rate. A land vehicle can decelerate at twice its acceleration if the operator succeeds on a moderate maneuver. So you slam on the brakes, and how quickly do you stop? Visual combat. If you represent the vehicles involved in combat on some kind of hex map or grid, everything works just like it does when you use the narrative technique to run the scene, with 2 key differences. First, the need for range and tensions disappears. With a hex map or grid, it's easy to see who's heading where and what the range is. Second difference between narrative and visual combat lies in how maneuvers work. Each grade of maneuver, routine, moderate, or extreme, allows a specific range of possible adjustments or turns for a pilot or for a vehicle moving on the hex field. The pilot can choose to make a maneuver at any point during its vehicle's maneuver that phase. For example, a vehicle moving 6 hexes could complete a turn beginning in the first hex or any hex up until the last. The complexity of the maneuver attempted governs the type of check to be made. If the hotshot pilot decides to try a half loop, it's a moderate maneuver. To determine who moves when in each phase, you'll need to determine who has the advantage each round. The pilot with the best action check result has the advantage. In the event of a tie, the pilot with the superior action check score wins. In each phase, the pilot with the advantage can choose to maneuver his vehicle first or to allow his opponent to move first instead. Moving first might allow a vehicle to get into a good position to shoot before the enemy responds, or to get out of the enemy's sights before the enemy fires a weapon. Moving second offers the hero a chance to see where the enemy is going before committing any movement. A pilot keeps the advantage until he fails a maneuver check. When this happens, the advantage automatically shifts. The advantage might shift back and forth several times in the course of a single round. Okay. All right. Yeah, that all. Yeah, that makes sense. Because it makes sense, but it also makes it a little more complicated. Again, I need to get this to the table to try it out. All right, failing a vehicle operation check. A pilot who fails a vehicle operation check may or may not complete his maneuver as intended. Just as in the narrative system, the pilot must immediately make a second vehicle operation check. The result of the check determines the outcome, as described on table P44, losing control of a vehicle. Vehicle scales. When vehicles moving on different scales meet in battle, say a jet fighter strafing a car, assume that the faster moving vehicle appears on the map at the extreme limit of its weapon range or the target's weapon range, whichever is greater, and adjust the faster vehicle scale to the slower vehicle. For example, a car driving at 160 kilometers per hour might cover 4 40-meter hexes in each move, but a jet flying at 640 kilometers per hour actually zooms 16 hexes per phase in the car's frame of reference. You'd normally use a much more compressed scale for the jet's movement, but since you have to compare it to a car, you have to use the lowest common denominator. Yeah, this is definitely where I'd be going more theater of the mind. So one of the things I never liked in BattleTech is aerospace in BattleTech, because it, the time and distance scales are all off. Let's see. All right, so here's the vehicle maneuvers. Okay, so bank and veer, roll drift, turn. Okay, so routine, moderate, and extreme. So basically, what can you do, and what is the penalty going to be for it? Makes sense. All right. When the fast-moving vehicle flies off the end of the map, use the return time suggested in table P46. When it returns, it shows up on the same side of the map it left from. If a pilot wants to loop back to another side of the map, it takes twice as long as listed. All right. Attack and defense. Using a vehicle system to attack or to defend against an attack requires an action on the part of a character in the vehicle. A gunner or passenger can operate a weapon anytime he can perform an action. The pilot or driver can do so too, but operating a weapon system and performing a maneuver in the same phase adds difficulty to the maneuver check. Fair enough. One useful tactic in vehicle combat is holding an action. If the gunner doesn't have a good shot in the amazing phase, he can always wait until the good, ordinary, or marginal phase to see if a better shot develops. Sometimes a vehicle might be in a great position early in the round, but if no one on board has an action available, no shot takes place. Such is the stress and uncertainty of combat. Maybe the gunner is trying to lock in the target, arm the weapon, or program a search pattern. Maybe the pilot is a little disoriented from the last high G maneuver. The attacker applies any modifiers from the vehicle attack modifiers sidebar to his skill check that are appropriate to the situation. Attack and defense skills. The mechanics for attacking with a vehicular weapon system are just like attacking with a personal weapon. The target may have a resistance modifier reflecting how hard it is to hit. It may be at short, medium, or long range. It may have some kind of cover. The skill used by the attacking character depends on the weapon fired. Let's see. Personal weapon. A hero can lean out the window and fire a gun at the bad guys. This is a normal attack using the hero's modern ranged weapon skill. This is not possible for aircraft at high altitudes or high speeds. Heavy weapon. A hero could lean out the window and fire a heavy weapon, or a heavy weapon might be attached to a vehicle in an unpowered mount. A 50 caliber machine gun in the back of a Jeep, for instance. Use the appropriate heavy weapon specialty skill. And weapon and defense stations. Many vehicles include powered weapon systems integral to the vehicle. This includes all vehicle weapons listed in Table G29. These onboard weapons rely on the system operation weapons skill. Okay, again, all pretty common stuff that I think we've even read about before. All right, vehicle damage. Vehicles sustain damage much like living characters do. They have stun, wound, and mortal ratings. Wound or mortal damage inflicted by enemy weapons causes secondary damage, and the vehicle's armor may stop some or all of the primary damage of a hit. There are two key differences to be aware of, though. Many vehicles, unlike most personal targets, have good toughness. This means that the damage from weapons of ordinary firepower, including most personal weapons, automatically degrades. Mortal damage becomes wound damage becomes stun damage, and stun damage is ignored. For example, a hero who fires a 9mm pistol at the enemy's vehicle may roll for damage and appear to inflict 6 wounds. He inflicts only 6 stuns. Any armor the car has may further reduce or entirely negate that damage. Let's see. Heavy weapons are more useful against vehicles since many of these have a firepower of at least good. Their damage doesn't degrade against tough targets. Most vehicular weapons are also rated for at least good firepower and chew up vehicles just as badly as they do unarmored characters. Excessive stun or wound damage impairs a vehicle's performance. The pilot of a vehicle that has lost more than half its stun or wound points must make an immediate skill check to see if he loses control. In addition, any skill attempted using the vehicle or its systems, vehicle operation or system operation, suffers a +1 penalty until the damage is repaired. It's harder to pilot or shoot from a damaged car or plane. When a vehicle loses all of its stun or wound points, a durability check must be made for the vehicle. A vehicle's skill check for this score is equal to its stun point total. If the vehicle passes its durability check, nothing happens. If the vehicle fails, it stalls and can't be started again until it's repaired or jury-rigged. Thereafter, as with characters, excess stun damage becomes wound damage, and excess wound damage becomes mortal damage. Mortal damage has the chance to disable a vehicle with a single roll. Every time a vehicle sustains mortal damage, it must make a durability check. The vehicle's skill score for this check equals its stun rating, but don't forget to include a +1 penalty for each mortal box and any other penalties accrued for stuns or wounds. If the vehicle fails to pass its durability check, it ceases to function until repairs are made. On a critical failure, a vital system breaks down and the vehicle explodes. Passengers suffer D8 plus 1 mortal points of energy damage. Characters within 6 meters suffer 2d6 plus 1 wound damage. And characters within 12 meters suffer D8 minus 1 wound. All right. Yeah, overall, I mean, these rules seem easy enough. I like the fact that they just kept the vehicles as far as the way that they deal with damage effectively the same as regular characters. But also I like the toughness rating. It kind of gives it a sort of a Palladium mega damage feel to it. Like there's certain weapons that they're not going to damage the vehicle at all. But it lets you work with it a little bit. So I do really like that. And then there's other stuff where doesn't matter, you're gonna hit. Why does it sound like there's a jet engine in the background? All right, so that's vehicles. So I have a feeling we're gonna do kind of the same sort of stuff for spaceships. What's up, Glenn? All right. Every starfaring hero dreams about sailing through the galaxy in his own starship. A hero with a ship no longer has to rely on commercial schedules, the vagaries of working for passage on tramp freighters, or the command structure of military transport. A ship captain is the master of his destiny, able to come and go as he pleases. Of course, the ship itself can become a crucial member of a hero party, especially once it's been modified and equipped with the finest systems that money can buy. All right. Ship construction. A ship's hull type describes its basic size, arrangement, and purpose. The hull contains a number of compartments. Each compartment contains vital equipment or systems such as the engineering plant, weapons and defensive systems, cargo, and crew facilities. A small vessel, such as a launch, only has 2 compartments within its hull, while a medium freighter has 12. Ship compartments also represent how tough the ship is to destroy. When all sections have been ruined by enemy fire, the ship is wrecked. A spaceship's durability is equal to its number of mortal points. These points are divided among all of the ship's sections, thus giving each compartment its own durability. A compartment's durability serves 2 functions. It describes how much damage the compartment can sustain, and it limits the number of systems an individual compartment can contain. For example, a compartment with 6 mortal points can carry up to 6 durability points of systems. So it's the exact same thing as vehicles, but compartments. That's so essentially you're gluing cars together. It's a way to think about it. Unlike other vehicles that come equipped with standard systems and can be outfitted with accessories, spaceships are initially empty. Every system must be accounted for and fit within a compartment's durability. Table G34 shows the types of hulls available and gives basic statistics for each hull type. Regardless of which hull a ship is based on, the ship has amazing toughness. If the weapon has less than amazing firepower, any damage the weapon inflicts degrades. So we just covered this. So the only difference is, since it's amazing, good is going to get degraded, or weapons with good damage are going to get degraded. Weapons with ordinary damage are going to get degraded twice. That's the only difference. So essentially, it's like as we're scaling up, we're going from people to car to spaceship. Bigger, tougher, etc. All right. Hull describes a particular class of spacecraft from small launch and fighter class ships to moderate sized medium freighters and corvette class vehicles. Uh, Comp indicates the maximum number of separate compartments that a ship's systems may be divided among. A ship may have fewer compartments than this number, but not more. Durability is the total durability or mortal rating of the ship. The durability value listed here is divided among the compartments to form their individual durability ratings. Military hulls can carry more systems because of their sturdier construction and Spartan arrangement. For example, the designer of a fighter with a total durability of 10 may divide its points evenly, forming 2 compartments of 5 durability each. No compartment can contain more than 10 durability points unless the game master is designing an extraordinary alien vessel. Cost is the cost of the empty hull without any compartments or systems. All right, so this is the chart that they're talking about. So essentially size, how many compartments you're probably going to have, and what your total durability is. Perfect. Love it. The durability system I'm actually really enjoying because it makes sense for all of this. All right. Compartments. A ship may include dozens of different systems, sensors, power plants, cargo holds, weapons, and so on. For purposes of determining where things are and what system gets hit by enemy fire, all systems are grouped into a compartment. Some compartments are more exposed than others, as table G50 illustrates, which is way in the back of the book. Actually, let's look at that real quick. All right. When a ship is hit, roll D20 and refer to the column for the number of compartments. The number in that column is the number of the compartment that was hit. Okay. All right. Interesting. Where was I? I should have read what page I was on before I went over there. I'm such a disaster, folks. Thanks for being here. All right. All right. These exposed sections, generally the higher numbered compartments, are good places to put non-vital cargo holds or support systems. The ship's designer can select how to divide the total durability of the ship amongst its compartments. Compartments may have different durability values up to a maximum durability of 10. All compartments have a stun and wound rating equal to twice their durability. Table G35 lists the type of systems allowed within each compartment and the cost of each compartment. Cost listed is for installation of the compartment itself, regardless of how many durability points are assigned to it. Let's see. All right, spacecraft scale. Let's look at this. The construction rules presented here allow for starships of small to moderate size. In general, don't place large and extremely powerful ships in the hands of the heroes. Most campaigns focus on light freighters and scout ships, not heavy cruisers or dreadnoughts. Okay. All right. Let's look at the compartments. All right, command compartment. A ship must have at least one command compartment. This is the heart of any ship, the basic nerve center for the vessel. The compartment includes the command deck with seats for crew, controls, and displays necessary to run the ship. All ship systems can be controlled at a station in the compartment they're installed in, or at the command deck. The command compartment also contains the ship's gear locker. Command compartments can support a variety of systems, including weapons, defenses, sensors, and communications. Smaller ships often carry all their fighting capability in this compartment, and all the engineering machinery in an engineering compartment. In smaller vessels, the command compartment may also hold Spartan crew accommodations. I think they are testing jet engines by my house, so if you can hear it, I don't know. Anyways. All right, engine compartment. A ship must have at least one engineering compartment. The ship's engines are located here, and in many cases, its power plant and life support as well. If the ship is equipped with a star drive or other faster than light drive system, the engineering space must contain this machinery. Weapons compartment. Weapons compartments are used for mounting weapon and defensive systems. Some weapons may be mounted in turrets, but the machinery, weapons controls, and magazines are internal structures that take up space in the hull. All right. All right. Auxiliary compartment. These compartments contain non-vital engineering equipment such as secondary life support and power systems. Main power systems may be located in auxiliary spaces to lessen the importance of any single compartment. Electronics compartment. Electronic spaces are reserved for fragile, high-value systems such as computers and sensor systems. Defensive systems of all kinds can also be installed within electronics compartments. Cargo compartment. These compartments are designed for carrying cargo or fuel tanks. Progress level 6 ships require substantial reserves of hydrogen fuel for their engines. Hangar bays, docking modules, and other such facilities can be put in cargo compartments. Crew compartments. These spaces primarily serve as living space for passengers or crew. Other uses include labs, sick bays, workshops, lounges, entertainment facilities, and so on. And finally, airlocks. Every ship requires an entryway, and every ship automatically has one airlock as part of the hull. This first airlock consumes no durability and can be designed as part of any compartment. Airlocks aren't simply doors. They contain a short chamber or corridor that cycles air pressure. Some ship designers like to have a backup airlock or two just in case. Maybe there's a fire on board, or maybe the compartment carrying the first airlock is destroyed. Additional airlocks cost $10,000 and 1 durability point to install. Like the first airlock, they can be installed in any compartment. Cargo holds automatically include external loading hatches, though these aren't considered airlocks. All right. Yeah, basically we're doing ship construction rules, and I've been bad about, following this and writing things down, but that's fine. I'd rather just read through it. All right, systems. To this point, the ship is an empty shell. The systems in each compartment will provide it with power, life support, engine, sensors, weapons, defenses, and all the other components necessary to make it a serviceable spacecraft. Each system uses a certain number of a compartment's durability points, depending on the system's size and bulkiness. Once a compartment's durability points have been filled, it can't hold any more systems. Systems fall into one of 11 general categories: cargo, communications, computer, crew, defenses, drive, engineering, power, sensors, support, and weapons. System costs, availability, progress level, durability, and power requirements are listed on table G36. In some instances, a ship designer may purchase more than one of the same systems. Sometimes this is done to include 2 mass cannons instead of 1. In other cases, multiple power plants may be required to power all of a ship's systems. 3 systems that can be included in any compartments are airlocks, escape pods, and reentry capsules. A ship must contain life support, a power plant, engines, and sensors. Ships of progress level 6 must also include fuel tanks for their fusion power plants and engines. All right. Power systems. The most important system of a starship is its power plant. Firing weapons, maneuvering, or raising defensive screens or shields takes energy. If a ship's power plant is knocked out, it can't maneuver, fire weapons, or use most of its defenses. A ship's power plant provides power factors to all onboard systems. If a ship doesn't generate enough power to use all of its systems at one time, the engineer must choose which systems are powered and which are unpowered. Changing the power configuration, depowering systems, and powering up new ones requires an action on the part of the ship's engineer. Power plants can be installed in auxiliary or engineering compartments. All right, so that's just art. Here's a list of all of our systems, costs, notes. Okay. All right, now we're gonna start skipping some of this because I'm not gonna read all the entries for the different power plants, but fusion generator, solar cells, grav fusion cells, mass reactor, matter converter. All right, engine systems. After the power plant, the engine is the second most important system of the starship. Depending on the size and power of the engine and the amount of energy provided by the power plant, A ship may move like a streaking greyhound or a plodding ox. Ships designed for combat or other maneuver intensive purposes often carry several engines in order to provide extra maneuverability during combat. A ship's engines harness the energy output of its power plant and convert it to maneuvering capability, represented by movement points. Larger and more advanced engines produce more movement points. They also require more power. The durability cost and power consumption of each engine is listed on table G36. Refer to table G38. Compare ship maneuverability. Compare the ship's durability with its number of movement points its engines generate. The result at the bottom of the table is the spaceship's maneuver rating. The maneuver rating listed is the bonus or penalty a spaceship applies to its pilot or helmsman's vehicle operation space vehicle skill checks. The maneuver rating also helps to determine a ship's acceleration and cruising speed. Refer to table G39, ship acceleration and cruising speed. Compare the type of engine used with its maneuver rating to determine the ship's acceleration in megameters per phase. Megameters per phase. Oh, because I think that's a typo. All right. The ship's acceleration in megameters per phase and cruising speed in astronomical units per hour. Because of the relatively low acceleration, the cruising speed of PL6 ships is much slower than that of PL7 vessels. And we're going to skip over the example. All right, so here's the acceleration chart, which I am good when if I end up running space combat, I am hand waving so many things. All right, so for different types of engines, we've got fusion torch, ion engine, photon sail, planetary thrusters, stabilizers, inertial flux engine, and induction engines. All right, drive systems. These are the devices that make a ship capable of faster than light travel. Ships that don't possess these devices, and many don't, can attempt interstellar travel, but travel time will be measured in years or decades, not days or weeks. Drive systems can only be mounted in engineering compartments. A ship equipped with a drive system is usually referred to as a drive ship. Spaceships without drive systems are often called system ships. Okay, and so then we've got star drives, drive wave. So an improved star drive. Glenn says, my favorite part of designing vehicles in RPGs is having them immediately lost, stolen, abandoned, or destroyed. I mean, there's an argument to be made there. I get it. All right, so I do want to read this one. All right, other drive systems. The star drive is the basic method of traveling between the stars in the Alternity game. In your campaign, you may want to introduce other methods of traveling over interstellar or even intergalactic distances. With any drive system, you need to consider the question of cost. How prevalent is FTL travel in your campaign? Next, you need to decide how available the FTL technology is. It may be relatively small and easy to use. Then use the statistics for the star drive listed here. On the other hand, your drive system could require the energy of an exploding star to hurl a ship vast distances. Direct FTL travel makes the assumption that Einstein's light speed limit can be broken, perhaps under specific conditions or with special technologies. The chief problem here may be acceleration. How long does it take the FTL ship to build up velocity? Using conventional methods, it would take years or decades. Warp travel is an example of a direct FTL that supposes the existence of a new technology of warp fields. Surrounded by such an energy field, ships can travel at speeds faster than light, but remain suspended within the normal reality. Hyperdrive offers a means to travel at high speeds through another dimension known as hyperspace. You have to determine the risks involved, the cost, and exactly how long it takes to travel. A light year every day, every hour, or every minute. The faster the hyperdrive, the larger your campaign area becomes. Wormholes differ widely from any of the previously mentioned technologies. In this campaign, anyone entering a wormhole is conducted instantaneously to a fixed location that may be hundreds or even thousands of light years away. It's likely that wormholes aren't terribly common, and your starfaring campaign may be limited to only a few star systems. Special starship technology may be required to activate or survive the journey through the wormhole. Jump gates are artificially created wormholes. Jump gates may provide transport to one single location, or technology may exist to tune the departing jump gate to any receiving jump gate within a set distance. Again, the cost of jump gate technology and its uses are entirely up to you. One advantage of jump gates is that no special technology may be required on the part of the spaceships to use them. No FTL, humanity may never develop this means of traveling faster than 300,000 kilometers per second. Maybe your science fiction campaign is limited to a single solar system, or maybe it takes place entirely on a gigantic generation ship, humanity's envoy to the universe. For more discussion of FTL travel and its effect on your campaign, see Chapter 14, Campaign Architecture, which we'll get to tomorrow? No, probably Friday. Which, wow, we've got a lot to get through on this. Okay. All right. Support systems. The following systems consist of light machinery such as life support equipment or hydroponic facilities. They can be placed in auxiliary or engineering compartments. One support system that's integral to all ships included in the hull cost is a means for reducing the stresses of acceleration. Ships of progress level 6 experiencing stresses as high as 10 times the force of gravity must rely on adaptive couches, gelatin protection, and foam suits. At PL7 and beyond, ships rely on methods that may disregard inertia, accelerating at thousands of times the force of gravity. These vessels can also use gravitics technology to provide a comfortable standard gravity environment. Life support unit. A life support unit consists of systems to regulate the ship's temperature, oxygen, and pressure, and reclamation machinery to filter and freshen air and water. Each unit, I didn't mean to read all that because we're not reading all the individual units. All right, so we've got life support units, accumulators. So, okay, so basically a power collector, recycler unit, auto support unit. So basically an extra life support unit and a workshop. All right, sensor systems. Sensors consist of sophisticated radar systems, infrared detectors, instantaneous mass detectors, and similar devices. The range of each sensor is listed on table G46. Typically, sensors are located in the command compartment, although they may also be placed in electronics compartments. We've got radars, EM detectors, multi-band radar, spectra analyzer, remote network, IR detector, mass detector, computer enhanced passive array, multi-phase radar. All right, defense systems. Powerful jammers, countermeasures, and point defense guns, gravity fields, and energy shields can all be fitted to a ship to protect it from enemy fire. Heavy armor, automated damage control, and redundancy are used to protect vital components. Defense systems may be installed in command electronics or weapons compartments. All right, computer systems. Spaceship computer systems use most of the rules from Chapter 10 in the player's handbook. Ship computers possess active memory equal to a mainframe at their own progress level. Ship's computer core can perform any computer functions, and most PL7 ships take advantage of this by adding AI programs, including AI programs with autopilot functions. Computer systems can be installed in command or electronics compartments. Like all network ship systems, the computer can be controlled from a station in its compartment or from the command deck. Communication systems. Com systems take up little space and can be located in either command or electronics compartments. I know, this is all super exciting. Crew systems, so quarters, passengers, suites, cargo systems, so cargo space, fuel tanks, hangars, weapon systems. All weapons are installed facing in one of four directions: forward, port, starboard, or aft. In order to increase a weapon's arc of fire, it must be installed in a turret. Otherwise, the weapon is hard mounted on the ship facing in the stated direction. Since missile systems are guided, it's not necessary to use a turret or determine the missile system's arc. Okay, that's fair. All right, and they've got a list of all the different weapons, which we're going to skip over. All right. The ship design record form. A ship has its own vital statistics that describe how well it moves, fights, and withstands damage. These statistics are recorded on the ship design record form on page 252. The most important entries on this form are described below. Maneuver rating. This is the number determined from table G38. It provides a modifier to all vehicle operation checks during maneuvers. Acceleration and cruising speed. A spaceship's acceleration and cruising speed can be determined from table G39. Weapons. Write down the name and vital stats for any weapon systems the ship carries, including the weapon's accuracy, range, damage type, damage amount, and max actions per round, and any special notes. Indicate which way each weapon faces by marking the appropriate section of the small crosshair diagram. Armor and defenses. Record the ship's armor type and the armor's values against low impact, high impact, and energy weapons. Write down any defensive systems the ship carries, including their power requirements. Engines. Record the type and size of the engines along with the number of power factors converted to movement points. And power plant. Note how many power factors are generated by the ship's reactors. Sensors. Use the space to record the ship's sensor systems including the system's range and power requirements. Communications. Use this space to record the ship's communication systems, including systems range and power requirements. And computer. Record the computer's quality and the characteristics here. All right. The ship status record form, as well as a place for recording the basic facts about what a ship contains. You need a way to keep track of who's running the various systems and how the ship is faring in combat. The ship status record form on page 253 serves this purpose. It contains two sections. Give me 1 second, Glenn. All right. So this is the record sheet. So you got your compartments with all the, damage boxes, and then, where your stations are located, who in the party is technically running that thing. Makes sense to me. And you have another sheet that looks like a weapon. Here's all the different compartments. So, all right, cool. All right. Glenn asks, can you combine components from different progress levels just to make it extra annoying? Yes, you can. Actually, that's one thing that they specify, frequently, is that that items from different progress levels either still exist, but at a much cheaper rate. So, like if it's a progress level 6 technology and you're in progress level 8, it still exists. It's just really, really cheap, and you can find it everywhere. In something like this, basically, like the different components, so like you have X-ray lasers at progress level 6 and an EM torpedo at progress level 8. You can have both. They're just going to have the different power and damage levels, but there's technically no reason you couldn't, because especially part of the game is like this is very it's a standard science fiction kind of a game. So you can have like say you encounter an alien race that is at progress level 2. Well, yeah, you can interact with the different progress levels, um, without any issues. You can, build with different progress levels. Don't always want to, but you can absolutely do it. All right. Um, all right. So commit. Yeah. So we kind of looked over all of that on the form. Stock versions of common spaceships. Okay. Start with that and then customize it later. All right. Let's get out of the boring section. Let's get into the spaceship movement. Might be just as boring, but a little less dry. All right, there are 4 frames of reference for spacecraft movement: interstellar, interplanetary, orbital, and combat. Interstellar movement. In a starfaring campaign, a sector map shows the region of space in which the spaceships move strategically. Um, Vessels of progress level 6, the fusion age, are not capable of faster than light travel. This means that travel times between stars are measured in years or decades, not weeks or months. For the purposes of running a game in such a setting, you can assume that the heroes spend their time in cold sleep. Movement from star to star happens between adventures in this type of game, since the heroes won't have many decisions to make while they're waiting to get to the next star system. The Star Drive. The Star Drive propulsion system is a feature of Progress Level 7 technology and is considered the baseline for interstellar travel in the Alternity game system. The device allows a ship to span vast distances during a 5-day submergence in drive space. Okay, this actually sort of came up in the adventure that I'll be posting. That like the amount of time you spend in drive space is fixed. The distance is not. So, like, if I'm say I'm a tiny little like, you know, space shuttle that, for 2 people, but I still have, faster than light travel. Well, if I'm using a star drive, it will still take me 5 days, but maybe I can only go like 5 or 10 light years at a time. Whereas if I'm a, giant, space battleship with giant star drive engines, in 5 days, maybe I'm going to cover 100 light years. So it's always the same amount of time. It's just the distance that'll change. And I think that was like a super, super fun twist on faster than light travel. All right. During this period, the vessel exists in a featureless void, unable to interact with the rest of the universe. Its destination is fixed upon entrance, and it can't leave drive space until the 5-day period has elapsed. Um, like I just said, a drive ship cannot re-enter drive space immediately after making starfall. It needs to accumulate a tachyonic charge that is dissipated each submergence. Tachyons naturally dissipate in drive space and therefore can't be stored. Thus, a long interstellar voyage on board a drive ship consists of a series of 5-day starfalls through the emptiness of drive space, interspersed with a few days in real space. The exact recharge time is random. In game terms, you can determine the exact time of recharge by one of 3 means. You can simply roll a d4 and add 1 for a number of days, or for a more precise measurement, roll 7d12 plus 36 for a number of hours. Finally, you may allow an engineer to attempt to decrease the time by analysis of tachyonic density and plotting of ship movement. Allow the hero to make a system operation engineering skill check. The result reduces the recharge time. Ordinary, 6d12 plus 36 hours. Good, 5d12. Amazing, 4d12 plus 36 hours. As a rank benefit, allow a hero with 4 or more ranks in engineering to reduce the roll by an additional d12. The nature of the cycle, time, and the submergence into drive space means that all ships have the same travel time for jumps of 5 light years or less, 5 days. Star drives powered by larger mass reactors show their advantage in the long haul. A small ship has to make 5 or 10 jumps to cover 50 light years, each requiring 5 days plus several days of downtime. To cover the distance a huge ship can cover in one submergence. Ships of progress level 8 or higher may use alternate propulsion systems, even more astounding than the star drive. The drive wave described earlier in this chapter is an example. Yes, I realize we skipped it. But I love I think it's fun. It's a nice twist on faster than light travel. All right. Interplanetary movement. Interplanetary travel, while expensive and slow, is within the reach of technologies available in the late 20th century. Travel within a star system may be the limit of the technology available to heroes, or it may be the medium between a planet's surface and the great gap between the stars. A ship moving between planets isn't just sailing the seas from one port to another. It's really in another orbit around the star. The spacecraft of the fusion age have enough power to continuously alter this orbit, driving along an intercept course to the intended destination. For game purposes, ships fly through planetary systems just as airplanes cross continents, ignoring the complex astrogation and looping intercept or orbits that are required to reach another planet. Given this assumption, the best way to deal with spacecraft moving in interplanetary space is to consider their cruising speed in astronomical units per hour. One astronomical unit is 150 million kilometers, the distance from the Earth to the Sun. Most intersystem journeys require spacecraft to travel anywhere from 1 to 10 AU. For simplicity, use the cruising speed determined for a spaceship when determining how long it takes to travel within a system. Realistically, of course, the only limit on a conventional engine speed, given sufficient time to accelerate, is the speed of light. During its trip, the ship accelerates past its cruising speed, but halfway through the trip, it must decelerate. Ship's cruising speed is actually its average speed for the duration of the trip. Progress level 6 ships average a cruising speed of 0.1 AU per hour. In the fusion age, acceleration is tough. Even with viscous fluid tanks, drugs, and other countermeasures, humans can't tolerate more than about 30 G. The use of artificial gravity to counter the effects of acceleration allows ships of PL7 to accelerate at astonishing rates. Most PL7 ships can change their speed by about 1 million kilometers per hour with each phase of acceleration. Such acceleration allows them to reach much higher speeds in reasonable time. The faster gravity age ships cruise at about 1 AU per hour or 0.15 C. Here are some guidelines for determining travel time between 2 points in a system. So, PL5 in 1 to 3 months? Oh, 1/3 of a month per astronomical unit, I guess. Oh, 1/3 astronomical unit per month. There we go. Okay. Some of these charts. Yes, 150 million kilometers is apparently 0.14 light speed. Makes sense. I think. I mean, I'm gonna trust the math. I don't have any reason to argue with it. All right. Average speed is the vessel's velocity in astronomical units in the given time frame. Okay. Yeah, I was overthinking it. All right. All right. Planetary alignment. Any two bodies in a solar system can be described as being in conjunction, in opposition, or somewhere in between. Planets in conjunction are aligned on one side of their star or close to it. Planets in opposition are on opposite sides of the star. To figure out the distance between two planets in conjunction, find the difference in their orbital radii. To figure out the distance between planets in opposition, take the sum, and for anything else, take 80 or 90% of the sum. Okay, yeah. Now we're getting into math that I'm not going to do in a game. Orbital movement. The transition between system travel and planetary travel is orbital or near space movement. The ship in a stable orbit doesn't have to expend any energy to remain there. It continues to fall around the planet forever. Climbing to Earth orbit from the atmosphere requires a spacecraft to accelerate to a speed of roughly 24 kilometers per phase, or 24,000 kilometers per hour. and an altitude of 200 kilometers. Lower orbits are possible, but below 100 kilometers, the increasing resistance of the atmosphere guarantees that the orbit is short lived. An orbit can circle a planet in any direction. Many satellites use a polar orbit, which means that over time, the entire planet will rotate underneath their flight path. Another interesting orbit is the geosynchronous orbit, in which the ship or satellite matches the planet's rotation speed. The ship hovers over one spot on the planet's surface. The radius of a geosynchronous orbit is based on the planet's mass and the rate of rotation. Orbital maneuvers are a routine manner in advanced spacefaring settings. Any spaceship capable of interplanetary travel can assume the orbit of its choice when it arrives at a new world and maneuver to any new orbit in a matter of minutes. Assume that a minor adjustment to an orbit requires 5d6 minutes for PL6 ships or d6 minutes for PL7 spacecraft. Major adjustments take twice as long. If the vessel is attempting to assume a very specific or difficult orbit, a vehicle operation or navigation skill check may be appropriate for the hero attempting the action. Leaving Earth orbit requires an acceleration up to about 34 kilometers per phase. This is known as escape velocity. Once a ship leaves orbit, it is in interplanetary space. All right. And finally, combat movement. A ship moving at very high speed is almost impossible to bring to a fight. However, the primary concern is how fast the ships can accelerate and move relative to one another. In PL6, ships travel at relative speeds of about 1 to 5 megameters per phase, or 100 to 500,000 kilometers per hour. At PL7, ships can fight and maneuver effectively at speeds of 1 to 10 megameters per phase, or 1 to 10 million kilometers per hour. All right, spaceship combat. To resolve combat between spacecraft, use the vehicle combat system described in the preceding chapter, with a few exceptions. The most significant of these is how a spacecraft takes damage. A spaceship isn't a vehicle with one set of stun, wound, and mortal ratings, but a collection of separate compartments and systems, each with its own ability to withstand punishment. There are a few other details to handle the unique setting of space as a battlefield, which are discussed below. All right, setting up the fight. First, you'll need to make the same decision you've already thought about for vehicle combat. You want to run the scene in narrative style, then you'll use this rules for opening range, speeds, and intentions for each vehicle. If you intend to depict as a visual scene, you'll need to use a hex map and you'll need to set a scale. Okay, done. All right, I'm skipping a bunch of that because we read all of that in the previous rules. Beginning intention, surprise, action round, all of that's the same. Visual combat again is the same. And even then, I think they're like, even if you want to use a map, that you're still going to be stuck in 2D. You're not going to go three-dimensional and track altitude and stuff. All right. Let's look at, okay, attack and defense. Using a spaceship system to attack or to defend against an attack requires an action on the part of some character in the spaceship. A weapons officer can operate the weapons anytime he can perform an action during the round. The pilot can do so too, but operating a weapon system and performing a maneuver in the same phase adds difficulty to the maneuver check. One extremely useful tactic in spaceship combat involves holding your action. If the weapons officer doesn't have a good shot in the amazing phase, he can always wait until the good, ordinary, or marginal phase. Okay, we read all of that under vehicle. Attack skills, again, is mostly going to be system operation weapons. Defense skills, again, system operation defenses. What is different? Oh, so they're going over all the different types of skills that you can use. Okay, so sensor skills, can you see the enemy, things like that. Yes, I realize I'm kind of hand waving a bunch of this, but it's repeating a lot. All right, command skills. This is going to be a little different. All right, or mostly because you don't necessarily use them in vehicle combat. The commanding officer aboard a vessel can use space tactics to apply penalties to the enemy, and leadership command to apply bonuses to officers under his charge. Also, the commander can spend an action analyzing enemy movement and providing warning. The result of a space tactics skill check may provide a modifier to the next action checks made by the rest of the ship's crew. Critical failure. Okay, anyway, that's pretty standard. Damage. All spaceships have amazing armor. How do I determine? Oh, that's what that table was for. Okay, right. Compartment hit location. So when a ship is hit, roll D20 and refer to the column for the number of compartments. The number in that column is the number of the compartment that was hit. So you're going to get hit randomly in most cases. All right. We talked about that earlier. Damage is the same as vehicle. Damage is the same as people, actually. It's just that you're going to then apply it to compartments. So, they could take out the crew compartment. They could take out a cargo pod, things like that. Let's see. Damage to passengers and crew. When a compartment suffers damage, individuals inside may suffer damage. First armor is accounted for, and the primary damage is suffered by the compartment is calculated. Any individual inside then suffers the same damage reduced 1 grade. If the individual is wearing armor, it may be taken into account. Damage suffered by passengers and crew is low impact. Okay. So yeah, you're in a compartment, it gets hit by a missile, you're going to take some extra damage. Makes sense to me. Damage control skills, so you can try repairing the damage. Okay. I realized that I skipped over a lot of that. But again, that was all covered in the vehicle rules. So I didn't think we needed to read it over again. So I apologize. But I like the fact that they give you the options for building starships. The construction rules are very easy to very simple to work with and make sense. So, I'm not going to need it in the adventure that I'm running, but it's nice to know that it's there. So, all right. So at this point, my ADHD is kicking in super hard. But before we go, I do, because some of you that were not here at the very beginning, missed out on the fact that I did announce that I started running an adventure for this. We did it over StreamYard, me and some of my friends in the YouTube space, Max Liao, Bear the Gen X GM, Max Liao from Legion of Myth, Bear the Gen X GM, Mr. Max Boivon from Reactionary Principle Gaming, GM Cody, a Nerd's Nerd who's just one of our friends, and also my wife, also known as Peanut Gallery or Kim. She will be with me tonight when we are going over the Batman Gotham City Chronicles game. But they all joined me because I need to get better at being a game master. I actually need to get over the fear of actually just running a game, and it was a lot of fun. So look for that hopefully tomorrow. I might post it later this week, but it will be posted this week because we didn't stream it, but I did record it. And I'm not saying I was great, but everybody had fun. And that was the most important part. I told them I was going to have issues. I told them that I wanted feedback, and I got a bunch of that. We didn't record that part though. Um, so regardless, it was great, and I had a lot of fun with this. So it's probably not going to turn into a regular campaign, but we're going to have some fun with it. So with that said, tonight, Kim and I will be back to, like I said, to work on our coverage of the Batman Gotham City Chronicles role-playing game. I will be back tomorrow to cover chapters 12 and 13. I think 12 and 13. Maybe just chapter 12. We'll see. No, Alien Artifacts is like, no, we're gonna do, yeah, Alien Artifacts and campaign design. I will probably be jumping over a lot of Alien Artifacts because it's just gonna be a lot of, here is this item, it does that. Here is that item, it does this. We're not going to read all of that. So, but the campaign construction rules, I do want to get into those. So, we'll see. But yeah, I do want to get through a couple of chapters tomorrow because this week and next week I want to get Alternity finished. The week after I'll be taking a break because we're going up to Vegas, and then I'll come back next week and we're going to start a new game to do our read throughs. So regardless, folks, thanks so much for watching. If you're new here, I do hope you have subscribed. I try to cover all sorts of tabletop gaming content, whether it's board games, miniatures, role-playing, whatever it is, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I'd love for you all to come along and see what we have to share. Don't forget, hit the like button so that you know, or so that you can tell YouTube that this was a good video to watch. But regardless, everybody, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I'm going to go to bed. Thanks. Have a great day.